So I'm sure many of you have encountered these anti-Israeli organizations. These organizations that talk about apartheid, that talk about depression and oppression and discrimination, all presenting themselves to be human rights organizations. You see them in the media, you see them on college campuses, you see them in the streets, all pretending to advocate for human rights. But the real question that we're here today to ask is, are these organizations really human rights organizations? This story begins in 2000, 2001. We're talking about the days of the Second Intifada. Those were the days that Israeli civilians were killed in the streets of Israel almost every day, where buses exploded in the streets, bombs exploded in cafes, in universities, in discotheques. Then during those days, a new coalition of Palestinian factions was created under the order of Yasser Arafat, an entity that brings all of them together. Despite the fact that they don't get along and don't agree on anything else, they were able to agree on one thing: the fight against Israel. And this new coalition was named the Palestinian National and Islamic Forces, or PNIF. This is what we now call the Supreme Terror Committee. So after the days of the Second Intifada, they started to create a vast international network of civil society organizations, of NGOs, of non-for-profits in your countries, and pull the strings all over the world to make you all believe that they are the true advocates for human rights. And why? What's the point? Why go through the trouble? If you're a designated terrorist organization, which they are, then obviously you cannot show up as yourself. You cannot show up as Hamas, you cannot show up as ISIS and fundraise. You cannot go to parliaments and try to advocate for your cause because you're a designated terrorist organization. And so how do you fundraise? How do you recruit your people? How do you push your agenda? The BDS movement is in fact something that was created by this coalition of terrorist organizations. A movement that speaks in the rhetoric of human rights that suits perfectly with the values of the Western world. What may seem to you as a fundraising campaign ends up being a terror attack in Israel, basically putting Israeli civilians in a constant state of terror, in a constant state of fear. So how does this all tie in together? This is the time when we have finally filed a huge and unprecedented lawsuit in the United States with Keren Kayemet Le'Israeli and Richard Heideman's law firm in Washington, D.C. to expose this chain, to expose the true faces of these organizations, to stop the money trail, to stop the influence, to show the method for what it really is. We are not going to stop. We are going to hunt them down wherever they are.